Hi library patrons, I'm Sarah Resky from the Harrison County Library System, and I'm in my tiny kitchen with my daughter Emma.
Hi.
And we've heard from a lot of friends and relatives that they're not eating so great during the COVID-19 pandemic. They're stuck at home and they're eating lots of junk food. So we decided we would do some easy recipes for real food and share them with you. And these, like I said, they can be done in a tiny apartment kitchen like ours. You don't need a lot of equipment or stuff to do it, and it's pretty healthy, we think. So we're going to get started, and we'll post the recipe if you want it in the comments later. So the basic things you need to make homemade granola are some old-fashioned oats, and these can be any brand. I just happen to have the classic brand here, and it's just important that they're the old-fashioned and not the quick oats or not the instant oats, because those won't work for you. You usually want to add some wheat germ. That helps with the crunch. It's not 100% essential because sometimes it's hard to find. I can only get it like maybe one place on the coast. You're going to need some salt, just basic salt, and some brown sugar. You can use the darker kind, but just the regular kind is fine. And some vegetable oil, and some cinnamon, and some water, and am I leaving out anything? Oh, some maple syrup.
Oh yeah, I just forgot the maple syrup.
We're not professional cooks, as you can tell. Some maple syrup or honey. Now this is up to you. We just happen to like the maple syrup, and the first time I made this recipe, my brother-in-law who lives in Vermont had brought me some maple syrup, so that's what I made mine with. But if you like honey, if you like that flavor, go right ahead and use honey. And the original recipe I started with came from the Parade magazine about 15 years ago maybe, and I've changed it and adapted it because it made just a really small quantity, and I usually like to make a lot because we eat a lot of this in our house. And the making of the granola is kind of more, it's not so much sciencey. If you like less or more sweetener, you can adjust that. Same for the sugar, the brown sugar. If you don't want too much sugar, you can dial that down as well. And when Emma was little, she didn't really like a lot of the additions to it, so I just make it plain, and then when I eat it, I add the cranberries or walnuts or almonds or whatever kind of, if you like coconut, pumpkin seeds, other kinds of dried fruit, apricot, what else does it say? Sunflower seeds, some people add, whatever kinds of things you like to add crunch and add texture to it, you can put in. So this is just the basic recipe. It's pretty adjustable, like I said, and if you don't want to make a big batch, just adjust as needed, and feel free to experiment. If you don't have vegetable oil, you can use olive, but it does have, has more flavor, the olive oil flavor. So if you don't like that, I would caution you not to use olive oil, but you can in a pinch, and it's pretty good, especially once you add the other flavorings. It's not as strong, but just plain vegetable oil is the least added flavor, so it's kind of neutral in your recipe. So like I said, we eat a lot, so I usually make 8 cups. So you just put this in your mixing bowl. Your dry ingredients are going to go first. So you count for me. I'm talking. I can't count and talk. I think that's 3, right? Okay. All right. So you're counting. All right. And we're going to mix the dry ingredients, and then we're going to heat up our wet ingredients. And this is less important if you're using maple syrup. Where am I? Huh? I'm good? I've got 8? All right. All right. I'm good with the oats. So I'm going to add the wheat germ. And for 8 cups of oats, I add about 3/4 cups of wheat germ. And again, this doesn't have to be super exact. I don't get out the 1/4 cup measuring cup. I just kind of eyeball it and put it in. And you can test that. You can play around with that to see. You may go, well, I don't really think that adds a lot, and I'm just not going to bother with it. But it does, according to the original recipe that I've lost probably 10 years ago, it helps add with the crunch. So the salt, again, is kind of to taste. when I have a grinder, I usually do about 10 to 12 grinds, but I run out of my grinder, and that was one of the things people were hoarding apparently, so I'm going to kind of sprinkle my salt. You know, you just want it to balance the sugar, so you don't want a lot, probably 1/8 of a teaspoon, something like that. So added my salt, and can you hand me the tablespoon over there? Thank you. So the brown sugar, I'm gonna, for my sweet tooth level, I'm gonna add about 3 tablespoons of the brown sugar to my dry mix. I'm counting for me. All right, one more, and I am packing this down. So once you get that in there, you wanna, I'm gonna let you stir, Emma. So you stir it up to make sure the salt isn't all in one place, or that your brown sugar, make sure it doesn't have lumps in it.
Lumpy.
Yeah.
Right now it's really lumpy.
It's really lumpy, yeah. So you gotta stir it a minute, get it. Oh, and I left off an important part. Like I said, we're not
Definitely not professional.
we're not used to cooking and talking. So you want to put your oven on low, about 2. You can do 250 or 275, and you don't want it too hot, because we want this to cook, to dry out slowly and not get too baked in there. So 275, 250, and if you're in more of a hurry, put it on 275, and it usually goes faster without being too fast. So depending on the humidity level and how long your sugar has been in the cabinet, that may affect the swiftness of the stirring in of the brown sugar. So you may need a little patience with that, and it's getting there. So I'm going to move this out of the way and start on the liquid part while she's stirring that. If you scoot over there.
Okay.
So you just need you can do this on the stove or in a microwave, and since we have, in our small space, we don't have an abundance of pots and pans, I just have a pretty bowl that I bought at the Peter Anderson Pottery Festival that's really for like rice dishes, but it works great for this recipe as well. So you're gonna add, for however many cups that you make, and like I said, I make 8, and sometimes I make 6 if Emma's at camp or something, and it's just me eating the granola for the most part. I don't make as much, but you use 1 tablespoon more of the vegetable oil than the cups that you put of oats. So we had 8 cups of oats. I'm gonna put in 9 tablespoons of the vegetable oil. And she's busy, so I'm gonna have to count myself. I got 3. This is number 3. This is 4. Oops, I got a little extra, so make a little less on this one. 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. Okay, so I got my 1 more than my cups of oats, and I'm gonna add, for when I do 8 cups of oats, I do 3 tablespoons of water, and I just use regular tap water. And you just kind of adjust that if you do less. Again, it's a pretty forgiving recipe, so don't worry, don't stress too much about it. If you just don't put more than 3, you don't need that much liquid for the stirring. So then you need to add your cinnamon, and I like a lot of cinnamon, so I put a lot of cinnamon, and I just sprinkle it till the top of the oil and water mixture is pretty much covered in cinnamon. And you may not be as big a fan as I am, so I would say I probably put in a teaspoon? I don't know. Let me see. Probably about a teaspoon of cinnamon. Yeah, about a teaspoon or more. It's it's a personal preference. So again, don't worry too much about it. Again, though, if you put too much, you probably are gonna be sneezing, and it's gonna be a little bitter if you overdo the cinnamon. So I would start with a teaspoon or so, and if that's not enough, then try more the next time. Okay, so for your sweetener, this is again a personal preference, how sweet you like it. And you make sure when you do the maple syrup or syrup, if that's your choice, that you get the real syrup, not the Aunt Jemima. That is not going to work for you. So get the maple syrup, and luckily I had just the right amount. I usually put about a half cup of the maple syrup in my mixture for the flavoring for the oats. So since I was kind of just barely had enough, I'm going to let it drip well here so I get all that yumminess.
Sit off.
And yeah, if somebody's a fan, they can lick the cup there. And so if you're using the stove, if you're heating this up in a little saucepan, you can do that, and you heat it up. You don't want it to get too hot, so keep the heat low, and just do it until there's just a little bit of bubbling around the edges of the pot. Don't do it more. You don't want it to make, we're not making caramel or something like that, so just a little heat. And this is especially important with honey, because you know how honey can be too thick, and you want to get it more fluid to mix well in your granola. The maple syrup, it's not as important, but it just does help it mix in better. So I'm being lazy because my other pot is in the dishwasher. So I put it in the microwave for about a minute, and just get it warmed up, and then we're going to mix it in with our granola. And I'm going to let Emma do that. Let's see, I got a couple of lumps still.
Yeah, I know.
That's the trickiest part, I guess, of the granola, is the brown sugar lumps. Okay, so while that's heating up, I'll give you the rest of the explanation. So once that's heated, we're going to stir it into the granola mixture, and then we're going to put it on our cookie sheets, or some kind of pan like that is what you need to spread the granola out on. And this is also part of the calculus for figuring out how much you want to make, because if you only have one pan like this, then well, don't make 8 cups, make more. But you can also make it and then put it aside and keep cooking it. It just takes longer. So we have one really big pan and one smaller pan, so that works for our 8 cups. And you will want to let it cool a little bit afterwards. All right, so go ahead and, is it not too hot?
Not too hot.
All right, so be careful when it's coming out of the microwave, and you're going to pour it over the oats. Watch the holes.
Oh yeah. There's 2 little holes in here for chopsticks.
So we don't want to burn ourselves with the holes.
Yeah.
All right, so you just pour it over your oats, and sometimes the cinnamon gets in clumpiness, so you want to make sure you don't.
Should have stirred it before we put it in.
Well, it's okay. So you want to make sure you get your cinnamon. Don't leave your cinnamon behind, and then you're just going to stir it. I'm going to let you stir it.
Yay.
You stir it until all the oats are moist. So sometimes you need to kind of twist whatever your implement is. You want to twist your tool, whatever you're stirring with, around to make sure that all the liquid doesn't get in a clump somewhere, because you want to spread it around evenly in your mixture. And I'm going to get the pan while she's stirring. Like I said, just any kind of basic cookie pan.
Oh, and it looks like this. I don't want to spill it.
Yeah, don't spill on the computer.
Yeah.
So just cookie pan, and evenly distributed. And you got to kind of work the wheat germ can
get a little clumpy.
Yeah, you got to get that. It doesn't mix in as easily as the oats sometimes. So
I'm sorry.
Sorry for that. So you just keep stirring till it's Yeah, you got that
there's
spot.
Some
There's a dry spot. Okay.
Under there.
Yeah. So you get it good and mixed, and then you're gonna spread it evenly in your cookie pan, and
then when we spread it, then was what?
Yeah.
Well, I think there's still some dry spots.
Just right there. Yeah.
A little bit underneath, and I want to make sure that I get all of them.
Yeah, you're doing good.
When you finish stirring, you can put it on the cooking sheets and then put it in the oven until it gets crispy. And I don't know how long.
I like to do it in 15-minute shifts or increments because you want to stir it to make sure the edges will get cooked faster, and you want to move it around every 15 minutes. Depending on how you did your sweetener, like how much you got on there, if you wanted to put a lot, and also what temperature you chose, it'll take from half an hour to 45 minutes to cook it. So you're going to stir it.
Hold on.
Sorry for the interruption. So after 15 minutes, I like to switch the pans because I do 2 pans. So I moved the one that was on the bottom of the oven up to the top and vice versa, and stir both of them around so that here, can you put it right there?
Yeah, I'll put it.
Okay, so you just kind of put it on your pan, give it a good pat, and I have another pan over here that I'm going to use out of view. Can you move that glass?
Yeah, I'll move it.
Thank you. All right. So we're spreading on the other pan.
Yes, it's over there. Where our sink is.
All right. So once I get it on the pan, I kind of
spread it.
Kind of shake it around. Are you sure we did 8 cups? This doesn't look like 8 cups.
I counted.
Okay. Our granola is looking a little sparse, but anyway, you want to kind of spread it around on your pan so that you don't have big clumps in one spot. And once you do that, kind of shake the pan. It helps even it out. Okay, this one's maybe a little. All right, and then like I said, you're going to put it in your oven.
Use your oven mitts. Be safe.
Well, they're not hot yet, so when we take them out, we'll definitely use the oven mitts. So we're putting those in there for 15 minutes. Then we're going to stir and see what the moisture level is, and then if it's getting crispy on the edges, we want to make sure to incorporate that before we put them back in and switch. Then again, you check it at 30 minutes, and if it seems like it's dry enough to your liking, you can go ahead and take it out, let it cool, and put it in a container. I like to use a glass jar with the little sealing lid, because I think if you put it in plastic, sometimes it affects the crunchiness of it, and the glass keeps it crunchier than a plastic container. But you can use that too. It also looks pretty on your counter in the glass jar. Emma likes it crunchier than I do, so if you have a crunchy granola lover, kind of where it's almost a little toasted, burnt even, then put it in for another 15 minutes to get it good and crispy, and you can smell it when it starts getting that toasted flavor. So that's about it. So like I said, this is a very basic recipe. If you like the additions such as dried cranberries or other dried fruit or nuts and things like that, you can put them in the beginning and incorporate them into your dry mixture. But it's up to you. This way you can customize it and add whatever you have on hand, and if you have a picky eater, they're more likely maybe to eat it without the nuts, or if you have allergies and such, the person who has allergies doesn't get exposed to them, and the person who likes them can add the nuts. So I encourage you to try it, experiment with it, try honey, try the maple syrup, and different kinds of either trail mix or additions to spice it up a little bit. Did I leave anything out?
I don't think so.
It's good. I hope you enjoy it, and if you try it and you want to let us know how it went, put something in the comments. Okay, hope y'all have a great afternoon. Bye.